Dry fasting, often called the most intense form of fasting, eliminates both food and water for a specific period of time, and while it might sound extreme at first, an increasing body of scientific evidence and physiological reasoning suggests that this practice triggers profound metabolic, cellular, and even genetic adaptations that are not fully replicated in water fasting or intermittent fasting protocols. When the body is deprived of external sources of hydration, it is forced to rely on its own internal mechanisms to generate what is known as metabolic water, created through the breakdown of macronutrients. Primarily fat oxidation, which not only liberates stored energy, but also produces water molecules as a byproduct. For instance, the oxidation of 1 gram of fat yields approximately 1.07 grams of water compared to carbohydrates, which yield less, and proteins, which yield even less, thereby making fat the most water-efficient fuel source. And this is one of the reasons dry fasting is often linked to accelerated fat metabolism. Compared to other fasting strategies, beyond the generation of metabolic water, dry fasting induces a state of heightened autophagy, a cellular recycling process where old or dysfunctional proteins, organelles, and even whole cells are broken down and repurposed for survival. And some studies in animal models have suggested that deprivation of both food and water increases autophagic activity more aggressively than fasting with hydration, as cells essentially go into an emergency repair and resource recycling mode to maintain survival. This upregulation of autophagy has profound implications for longevity, immune function, and resistance to disease, since autophagy is known to clear precancerous cells, reduce the accumulation of misfolded proteins implicated in neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's, and strengthen the body's ability to adapt to metabolic stress. One of the most fascinating scientific aspects of dry fasting is its effect on hormesis, the principle where exposure to mild stressors strengthens biological systems. Much like how exercise stresses muscles and bones to make them stronger, the absence of water is a form of controlled stress that triggers molecular pathways such as the upregulation of heat shock proteins, which help stabilize cellular structures and repair damage, as well as the activation of sirtuins, a family of proteins linked to improved mitochondrial function, DNA repair, and lifespan extension. Dry fasting also influences inflammation and immune response in unique ways. Research suggests that the absence of external hydration forces immune cells to become more efficient and resilient, with markers of systemic inflammation dropping significantly after short periods of dry fasting, possibly due to both the intensified autophagy and the reduction in pro-inflammatory signaling molecules such as interleukin-6 and TNF-alpha. From a metabolic perspective, dry fasting rapidly accelerates the transition into ketosis, the metabolic state where the liver produces ketone bodies from fatty acids to provide energy in the absence of glucose, and the dehydration component seems to push the body into ketosis faster than water fasting alone, because glycogen, the stored form of glucose in the liver and muscles, binds to water molecules, roughly 3 grams of water for every gram of glycogen. So when water intake is eliminated, glycogen depletion happens more quickly, forcing the switch to fat metabolism earlier in the fasting process. Practitioners of dry fasting often notice quicker fat loss and clearer thinking in less time than with other fasting methods. Furthermore, research into Ramadan fasting, which involves daily cycles of dry fasting from sunrise to sunset, has provided a wealth of data on how the human body adapts to periodic dry fasting, showing improvements in insulin sensitivity, reductions in body weight, decreases in LDL cholesterol, and even improvements in gut microbiome diversity, which plays a crucial role in digestion, immunity, and mental health. Did you know that during dry fasting, your gut microbiota actually changes? It shifts to species that are better at pulling energy from food and keeping your gut lining strong. This helps prevent that annoying leaky gut and cuts down on inflammation. How cool is that? Another scientific dimension to consider is the role of oxidative stress, often blamed for aging and chronic disease. While dehydration initially increases the production of reactive oxygen species, the hormetic effect of dry fasting enhances the body's antioxidant defenses, upregulating enzymes such as superoxide, mutase catalase, and glutathione peroxidase, which neutralize free radicals and restore redox balance. In terms of cellular hydration, paradoxically, Dry fasting teaches cells to become more water efficient by upregulating aquaporins, the channels that regulate water transport across cell membranes, making the body more adept at conserving and recycling internal water resources. Studies in animals deprived of water have shown that cells adapt by becoming leaner, more efficient, and more resilient to stress, which may translate into long-term benefits for human physiology. Another fascinating area of study is the effect of dry fasting on stem cells and regeneration. Preliminary evidence suggests that the intensified autophagy and stress response during dry fasting primes topoietic stem cells in the bone marrow, stimulating immune system rejuvenation once refeeding occurs, similar to what has been observed in prolonged water fasting, but possibly amplified by the additional stressor of water deprivation. Neurobiologically, dry fasting enhances the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, a key molecule involved in neuroplasticity, learning, and memory, and the ketones produced during accelerated fat metabolism serve as a cleaner, more efficient fuel for neurons compared to glucose, leading to improved cognitive function, mental clarity, and focus. There is also evidence that dry fasting influences circadian biology, as the absence of water intake interacts with the body's natural rhythms of hydration, hormone secretion, and metabolism, aligning cellular repair and detoxification processes more tightly with fasting and feeding windows, which may amplify the benefits of time-restricted eating. When combined with dry fasting cycles, some folks worry about dehydration and kidney issues with dry fasting, but studies during Ramadan show that healthy people can handle daily fasts of 12 to 18 hours just fine. Our kidneys get clever, concentrating urine and soaking up more water while also clearing out uric acid. That said, the practice is not universally safe, and individuals with underlying conditions such as chronic kidney disease, uncontrolled diabetes, or cardiovascular instability should not attempt dry fasting without medical supervision, as the stress could exacerbate their conditions. But for healthy individuals, short-term, dry fasting appears not only safe, but also uniquely beneficial in ways that other fasting protocols may not fully replicate. On a biochemical level, one can think of dry fasting as a deep cellular spring cleaning, forcing the body to prioritize essential systems, eliminate waste, and rewire metabolism for efficiency and resilience. The evolutionary perspective also supports the plausibility of dry fasting benefits, since humans, like other animals, have repeatedly faced periods of both food and water scarcity, and survival in tough situations meant creating metabolic pathways that work better when resources are scarce instead of plentiful. By voluntarily engaging in dry fasting today, you're essentially tapping into an ancient biological program coded into our DNA, one that optimizes health, performance, and longevity under the stress of temporary deprivation. As research continues, we are likely to see dry fasting investigated for therapeutic applications, ranging from metabolic disorders and obesity to autoimmune diseases, neurodegenerative conditions, and even cancer, given its unique ability to combine autophagy, ketosis, immune modulation, and cellular resilience into one powerful intervention. Dry fasting is something you should approach with care and a little patience. But guess what? New research shows it's not just some wild trend. It's actually a smart way to help your body reset and feel amazing at a biological level.